You don't need to do any manifesting processes. You don't need to visualize. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to script. You don't need to do affirmations. You do not need any manifesting processes to manifest whatever it is you want. I have quantum leaped in my income. I have doubled my income in weeks. I am now traveling. I have a free calendar. I have my dream life. Every area of my life has up-leveled. I shifted to a vastly different timeline because I am a vastly different version of myself.
Oh boy.
No, I'm not letting you do that, lady. You are not allowed to use the phrase quantum leap for your idiocy. You leave Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell out of this. They have done nothing but provide endless, wholesome entertainment to you, and this is how you pay them back? Quantum Leap was a fun show that actually dealt with some real issues, and it was good to watch. Not like any of your crap, so you leave Quantum Leap out of this. Now, here's the thing, lady. You're talking about having a big house and having a whole bunch of money because you profited off of gullible women, and you're bragging about how you're traveling and everything like that, but if there's one thing we know about modern women, they will always flex about the material when they don't have the real things that they want. You're gonna trick yourself into thinking that you have the life that you want and that you're living the dream, but in reality, we all know, you go to bed alone every night. You don't have a man in your life, and that is the one thing that you want, but you're trying to cope by bragging about the material things that you want, even though they don't fill the void that's growing in your soul.
But none of that was through using manifesting processes. I am a manifestation coach, but I do not use manifesting processes. When you know who you are, when you know you are God, when you know you are the creator, you just have to make a strong decision and trust that and let it unfold. All manifestation processes are permission slips. They are placebos. They don't give you any effects. I don't care if you do a 20-week course on money manifestation, and then at the end of that course, you triple your income. The processes in that course did not get you those results.
What?
You know, the more I hear modern women talk about manifestation, it sounds like it's just a justification for sheer laziness. It's just like you put in an order at a restaurant, you just sit around and do nothing and wait for it to be served to you, and it really doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. If there's something you want, you actually have to work in order to make it happen. This goes for anything, be it your career, the things that you want, or your love life, but you're not willing to do any of that. You just place the order and then you sit around and wait for that cup of coffee that's never going to show up, and when it does, it's usually lukewarm and you just find another excuse to complain. And if your big strategy is not to use any manifestation processes and to just make demands of the universe, then I actually have to question your business model. If that's your big secret, then why are you charging women when you're telling them this big secret for free? It almost sounds to me like you don't even believe that the crap you're peddling. You're just a modern snake oil saleswoman and you are terrible at your job.
You are God. You are the creator. You used those processes to decide to change, to decide to shift timelines, to decide to manifest things, to let them in, to let go of beliefs, to attain new ones. Think about this. Why would you need manifestation processes and all this healing work and shadow work? Why would you need to go through a process when you are literally God?
Blasphemer!
You know, just when I think I've seen it all, I actually see a modern woman come up with one of the most asinine things imaginable by saying she is literally God. Now, if you're a religious man, that is sheer blasphemy, but if you're not a religious man, it's just sheer idiocy. If you're literally God, that means that you're all-seeing, you're all-knowing, and you possess all of the knowledge in the known universe, and if that was the case, then why would you actually need a manifestation coach? You should just be able to snap your fingers and make it happen automatically. If you're God, that is. And that's the weird thing about these modern women who actually try to talk about manifestation. They do act like they're literal gods, even though they're clearly miserable and have no idea how to fix it. Seems to me like if you had all the knowledge in the known universe, that wouldn't be an issue. You wouldn't be miserable. You'd be out there saving the world, but that's not what you're doing. You're trying to peddle your wares to a bunch of gullible, lonely women who have nothing better to do with their time or their money than hire a manifestation coach who's going to be paid for the privilege of just telling them that they're gods.
Check, please.
If a man ghosted you, congratulations, because you are a very lucky woman. Hear me out. First of all, let's get into the reasons why men ghost. The most likely reason he's seeing someone else. But it could also be he got what he wanted from you and he lost interest. He has commitment issues and he got scared. You asserted your boundaries and he didn't like it. He has abandonment issues and wanted to leave before he got left. He's not serious about you but wants to try to leave the door a tiny crack open in case he wants to come back. It could be any of these things. It could be none of these things. But the actual answer is it doesn't matter.
Wow, that's fantastic work, man. You have the wisdom of a 6,000 or 7,000-year-old man. That's fantastic. We don't have to fill up the whole blackboard after all.
You know, the concept of ghosting is actually kind of fascinating to me. We used to live in an era where communication took work. You actually had to make physical phone calls, you had to write letters, and you actually had to make an effort to meet somebody. And if you didn't want to see them again, you actually had to grow a pair and tell them to their face that you didn't want to anymore. But now communication has become so instantaneous that it's made everyone incredibly lazy. And that describes modern women to a T. They are so lazy and avoidant of any form of conflict that they will justify any reason under the sun to ghost a guy up to and including boredom. And when they do it, it's perfectly natural. But if a guy does it, then all of a sudden it's this unforgivable sin that needs to be analyzed to the point where you're talking smack about a guy. Now, if it happens once in a while, yeah, it's industry standard because that's the standard you set for dating. However, if it keeps happening with multiple men, then you really need to look in the mirror and find out what that common denominator is. In that regard, you're right. The reason doesn't matter because the reason is you.
At the end of the day, a man who is serious about you and who truly wants a future with you will not ghost you. I know being ghosted is an ego blow that can send you into a spiral of overthinking and feeling unworthy, but I really need you to believe me when I say this man's behavior says nothing about your value and everything about his character and how he handles difficult situations, which is, by the way, in a manner that's selfish, disrespectful, emotionally immature, and probably driven by deep-rooted wounds and insecurity.
Speak for yourself, moron.
Oh my god, that is funny!
Okay, woman, let's go there. You could have a man who would want to give you the world, who would bend over backwards to try to make you smile and to make things work, but it comes to a point where if you're not reciprocating or you're expecting more of him, then he's just going to give up and just not want to deal with you anymore, and he won't bother by breaking up with you via text. He's just gonna leave and move on with his life. And don't sit there and act like you're the victim in all this, especially when ghosting was the precedent that you set back in your 20s when you were at minimal value. You can't expect any of us to believe that you have never ghosted men for petty reasons once in your life, because if that was the case, then you wouldn't be making these videos at all. You would be loyal to a man who was loyal to you, but that's not how any of this works. I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that back in your 20s, you were ghosting men left and right, and you believe every single one of those reasons were completely legitimate, but when it happens to you, it's the worst thing to happen to any woman in the history of humans.
My love, your feelings of hurt are valid and definitely take the time you need to grieve. But please hear me when I say that you need to make self-love your top priority right now, so you can see clearly that you didn't lose anything in this situation besides a man who was disrespectful, unreliable, and damaging to your mental health. It's not a loss, it's a win, especially because you weren't gonna let him go yourself. And by the way, when you feel ready, send that man who ghosted you some genuine love from a distance, because only hurt people hurt people. I love you, you deserve better, and follow me for help detaching and moving on.
Great plan.
Thank you.
He likes your plan, Chief.
You know what, I just noticed something incredibly weird. If you actually take a look at her window, the daylight shifts quite a bit in between her jump cuts, which means that she recorded this video multiple times to record even more gibberish for a message that really makes no sense at all. And all of this sentiment is completely unnecessary if you just chose a little bit wiser when it came to men, because the type of men who ghost usually have options. I'm not saying that this is the case all the time, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, most men just want a halfway decent relationship with a halfway decent woman, but you will never give those guys a chance because of your high standards. And on a final note, you sending love from a distance just reeks of pettiness, because you're not doing it to show him any type of love or to tell him that you're not hurt. You're just doing it to try to get the last word in. And I hate to break it to you, sister, when that man ghosted you, it was the ultimate final word, and there is nothing you can do to change that.
I know it, your family knows it, dogs know it.
So I don't want to date a dude that's rich. I want to date a dude that's generous. There's a very big difference. Because I've dated dudes that have a lot of money, but they're like stingy as fuck. with their money, and I've also dated broke dudes who are like generous as fuck with what they got. Do you know what I'm saying?
Nobody cares what you think.
Yeah, nobody cares what you want, lady. I want a refrigerator box filled with solid gold. I don't see what type of point that you're trying to make, especially the generous men out there who are too busy enjoying their peace by watching flicks like The Punisher, one of the best movies around. Before John Bernthal, before Thomas Jane, it was Dolph Lundgren, the legend himself, who got to carry that particular torch. It's a simple movie filled with 1980s cheese, like ninjas, gunfights aplenty, and the casual type of Japanese racism you've come to love from 1980s action cinema. It gives the people what they want. Dolph Lundgren running around, gunning down bad guys, and blowing stuff up in the only way a cheaply made comic book movie from the 80s can provide. Now, to be fair, this is the only Punisher movie that completely throws away his signature skull, but I'm willing to forgive that because of the ninjas who irresponsibly blind fire Uzis while sliding down an abandoned funhouse slide. It's a kind of movie that simultaneously takes itself way too seriously without being serious at all. Now, don't get me wrong, Thomas Jane was one hell of a Punisher, but you gotta give respect to the man who started it off, because I never saw Thomas Jane carry a belt-fed machine gun with a grenade launcher attachment one-handed, and there's something to be said about that. This segment was brought to you compliments of the fine members of the Bounty Board over on Patreon for their regular support of my work. Gentlemen and gents, I thank you every single day, and it's with good reason, because it's your generosity that allows me to continue posting content every single day. So thank you a trillion times over. Square that and multiply it by infinity, and we'll get close to somewhere that shows my gratitude. All hail! And if you're interested in supporting my work, check out the Bounty Board over on Patreon. For the low price of $5 a month, you can get access to content that you're not going to find on YouTube, and I post up there twice a week on a variety of different subjects, from movies to lock lore, the list goes on and on. The link is in the pinned comment down below, and I hope I've earned your support today.
Have you ever thought about how expensive men's hobbies are? Like, I did all this research for my book, Financial Feminist, about the ways women spend money versus men, and the frivolous spending, the spending that is the reason you can't get rich or the reason you can't get ahead, is only feminine spending. It's the lattes, it's the manicures, it's shopping, right? The reason women aren't rich is because they fucking have a shopping addiction. That is just a complete double standard.
Are you sure?
You know what, woman? You're absolutely right. It is a double standard, just not in the way that you think. You see, your spending is repeat spending. You're constantly spending money on manicures. You're constantly spending money on coffee instead of making your own. You're constantly spending money on clothing that you're going to wear a couple of times, and regular trips to the nail salon to make your nails look pretty, even though the only person who cares about that kind of crap is you. The biggest difference between your shopping addiction and a man's hobbies is that a man's hobby, even though it might be expensive, are typically revolving around one-time purchases that last a long time. Take video games, for example. Yeah, the latest system may cost more money, but he's only spending that money once, and then every once in a while spending some extra money on some video games. He is not constantly buying systems or games or anything like that. It's a one-time purchase because he knows the value of the money that he has to work his ass off to earn. It's a completely different argument, sister. You're way out of your depth on this one.
Because men are out here spending so much money on NFL season tickets and sports betting, on golf and golf clubs, and on the video game console and the video games, and then the opt-up add-ins, whatever, in the video game. Yet, the reason we're not rich as women is because we spend money. No, I'm sorry. I'm calling out that double standard. That is absolute bullshit. No, the reason women aren't rich is because of systemic oppression.
Give me some money. Give me some money.
Woman, if you were systemically oppressed, you'd be working and not making any money at all. It would just be expected of you. You're not rich because you constantly are spending money you don't have on things that you don't need. If a man drops a couple $100 on a set of golf clubs, those golf clubs are gonna last him for at least a couple of years, and he's not going to replace him just because a new model comes along. If he's buying season tickets to his favorite team, that is a one-time expense. He is not constantly buying season tickets every season. And if a man purchases purchases a game console, he is going to be investing in games with multiple replay values because those things cost a lot of money. There isn't a system that's out there that's oppressing you and keeping you from earning money or anything like that. It's because you recklessly spend that money on things you don't need, and then you rack up credit card debt once you run out of money. That's not systemic oppression, sweetheart. That is you just trying to shrug responsibility for your irresponsible spending habits.
That's funny because it's so true.
Girl, being in your feminine energy will change your life. I'm that older daughter, so I've always been in my independent, hyper masculine, and just like I can do everything myself, I have to do everything myself era. And this past year, I've been wondering, like, why don't I have everything that I truly want? Like, why don't I feel the way that I want to feel? Why don't I have that dream business? Why don't I have that dream body? Why don't I have that dream relationship? God has just shown me that it's because I'm doing everything in a masculine way.
And
You know what? If a modern woman actually gave a tangible definition to the concept of quote-unquote feminine energy, I might actually die of shock. Just because you keep repeating the words doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about. It just means that you're incredibly ignorant. And I'm failing to see how this feminine energy can be applied to your workout and you not actually going on a diet and losing all of this weight. That really makes absolutely no sense at all. And you just assume everybody knows what you're talking about because you say the words feminine energy like 9 times in a single sentence. So I'm just convinced that you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about and you're just trying to justify your laziness or something. I don't freaking know, and I don't know because you're not giving me anything to work with here, woman. I have absolutely no idea what in the hell you're even talking about. And you don't even know what you're talking about. You just keep repeating the same words over and over and over again and acting like you actually have a point, but you clearly don't.
Listen to this. Once I started literally taking feminine energy to my workouts, once I stopped trying to control my body, restrict my body, fast, like literally try and force weight loss, I started doing things in my feminine energy. Like I took feminine energy to weight loss, and I literally like now don't diet, I don't exercise every single day like I used to, and I've lost so much weight and I'm never bloated, I'm not like inflamed anymore. Like I have my dream body now. When it comes to my relationship, I'm just like so much happier being in my feminine energy and knowing how to act in my feminine energy, knowing how to just like receive in my feminine energy. And I feel so good because I have that real dynamic and like polar opposite in like masculine energy in a man, and it just like makes me literally so much more attracted to people, so much more like attracted to myself.
You don't know what words mean, do you?
I might be wrong on this one, but I've never fully subscribed to the idea that if you do what you love and you're passionate about, then you never work a day in your life. I mean, I don't buy that at all. Work is work, and even if you enjoy the work, at the end of the day, it's still going to be taxing emotionally and physically. That's just how work is. That's why it's called work and not super duper happy fun time. Now, enjoying what you do does help. I personally have a blast making fun of these women, but at the same time, they make it so incredibly easy with their stupidity. I mean, here we have a woman who can't stop talking about her feminine energy, even though she doesn't define feminine energy, and she's talking about the relationship she wants, even though she's clearly not in a relationship. If she was, she would not stop talking about that guy. It would be the focal point of her entire freaking video. And the more I hear about the concept of feminine energy, the more I'm convinced it's just a way of them saying that they're doing absolutely nothing at all and seeing absolutely zero in results.
And in content creation and in business, when you're so outcome focused and you're not focused on the creation process, loving what you're doing, being passionate, and you're doing things only for money, it actually messes you up. Like you're not as consistent, you're not as heart driven, and people really feel that. So it's hard for you to be successful as a creator. And I feel like just being feminine in my own life, like not feeling like I always have to be doing something, not feeling like I always have to be working or just taking on the responsibility for other people, especially like as the older daughter, has just like made me feel so good. Also, like not worrying about my future, like really taking a feminine like approach to life has made me feel so good, just flowy and just like happy, and my energy is just so much like lighter and just like more enjoyable.
Wow. That's amazing.
Okay, good for you. If your life is better because you've embraced your quote-unquote feminine energy, then go forth and prosper. Why in the hell are you talking about it? It always seems to me that if a modern woman has to brag about how happy she is and how great her life is, then it really shows that it's pretty much the opposite. Because if a woman is truly happy in her life, she doesn't really need to turn around and celebrate it to the entire public. She'd be too busy enjoying her life. Now, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I find it absolutely ridiculous how you keep talking about how you need to embrace this feminine energy, but you don't provide any instruction on how to do it. You just think that it's obvious, but it's clearly not, because modern women love to talk about feminine energy, but they don't put a definition behind the concept. Now, I do agree. I believe that women need to be more feminine, and that's just to save society, but I really don't see that happening anytime soon, because a modern woman would rather be right than just admit that there's nothing wrong to being feminine. And it's attitudes like that that really make men pray for the frickin' asteroid. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, and make sure to share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, gentlemen and gents, and until next time, peace out, homies.